Bajaj, welcome you all to AIOC 2021 virtual conference. To begin with our session, I'd like to invite Dr. Quresh. Welcome, sir, and all other doctors. Welcome, everyone. I'll request Dr. Quresh to please ask the first speaker to present. Thank you.
Yeah, so I am, one sec. What happened? Yeah, so I'll just share my screen and I'll introduce this subject. See, this subject is important because this is something which we have never tackled before at the AIOS level. There is a huge upsurge of social media, and many of us are not even aware of the various possibilities that we have in the social media. We know of our mobile phone has got SMS and WhatsApp, and we've heard of perhaps Facebook, and some more educated people have heard of Instagram. But then there are so many other modalities which we have seldom tapped, and some of us people have not only tapped them but abused them as well. So there is a use of this medium by which we can enhance our practice and enhance our presence, especially in the younger generation of patients. There is also an abuse of this by telling people that I am now at so-and-so airport and I'm about to go to the bathroom and things like that. I mean, sharing too many details of our life. It turns off potential patients as well. So we need to strike a fine balance between the use and abuse. There are people who don't use any social media. They don't have a website. They only believe in the old-fashioned word of mouth, patient will get patient. And they're fairly happy in their practice. But if we really want to grow now, we need to reach patients who are beyond our immediate neighborhood. You can get a patient coming from Kashmir or from Kanyakumari because they've seen you on social media, they've heard you somewhere, you've given a talk which is there on YouTube, or they have got a peculiar problem and they search the surgery out on YouTube, and there are 20 videos of yours there, and they feel that therefore you must be an expert. So there is a lot of ways in which social media can help us. And I've assembled together for this meeting a very fine team of young and not so young ophthalmologists who are all using social media fairly effectively. And having been immersed in social media, I have also seen the abuses that there are. So they will point these out along the way as well. We'll start with Dr. Santosh Honavar, who is our editor of the Indian Journal. And especially during the COVID times, we had a surfeit of webinars and Zoom meetings and things like that. Till people just kept the webinar on and for CME points and went and had a cup of tea outside and weren't really listening to the webinars. Have we really abused or have we used it to its fullest potential? Have we abused these? So we'll have Dr. Santosh Honavar talking about these, and then I'll introduce each speaker as they come along. Dr. Gaurav Luthra will be the next. So it's over to you, Santosh.
Thank you, Quresh, for thinking of this webinar. I think it's a very nice concept. People always wanted to know what is up there in social media if they didn't know already, and how to optimize the use of these media. I'll be talking about a webinar that works. For somebody who doesn't know what a webinar is, obviously everybody knows. It's an online seminar. That is how a webinar is defined. It used to be a relatively novel concept. In fact, AIOS had started this off at the time of Dr. Nayak when he was the secretary. We used to have webinars, but not on a Zoom platform, but that was a different platform. Now, since COVID started last year, we have had a lot of webinars. In fact, the number of webinars that we have had is much more than the number of physical meetings that we used to have in a pre-COVID era. And as is usual, novelty always attracts, and initial webinars were fully crowded and successful. But then there were too many on the bandwagon, and finally what set in was Zoom gloom or webinar fatigue. And there was a drastic drop in uptake. So it kind of went off like this, and that is how it has stabilized now. maybe to 10% of the kind of crowd that we used to earlier have. So this is a real thing, actually, Zoom fatigue. And in fact, when there was a survey of professionals, not ophthalmologists, professionals, what is the most hated phrase of 2020? This was it. Am I audible? Are my slides visible? This is the most hated phrase, and not a surprise. So what are the key attractions in a webinar? If you really want to make it attractive, you have to concentrate on a topic and focus on a current relevance. For example, at this point in time, month ago for that matter, mucormycosis came up, rhino-orbitocerebral mucormycosis. If we were to do a webinar on diabetic retinopathy in those times, probably it wouldn't have takers. But if you did a webinar on mucormycosis and how to identify early signs and take care of this patient, that would have great attendance. And it did. When AIOs did such a webinar, it attracted 4 times the number of attendance that any other AIOs webinar would ordinarily have under those circumstances. So you have to have a topic or a focus on what is relevant currently. Similarly, when COVID was raging last year, practice management and how to get back into practice following ease of lockdown, all these were hot favorite webinars, and financial management, etc. Then the second aspect is quality of faculty. You have to at least have a couple of key faculty or opinion leaders to make your webinar successful. Otherwise, there is no takeaway point to a listener. Why would listener come and listen to somebody something that he already knows? And the reputation and brand value of the organizers always helps. If it's a professional society which is always organized quality webinars, that is consumed very well. If it is somebody who wants to step into the webinar scene, then you have to build brand value to your webinars by organizing very regular and good quality webinars. You always have to promise takeaway and learning goals upfront. So when your webinar communication is sent, you have to be very clear as to what you're offering in that webinar. Timing and duration are important. How many hours to a webinar? I'll talk a little bit about that. Interactive always wins over passive webinars. Now, these are the formats that we conventionally have. It could be a single expert with a panel discussion. Works very well if that single expert is somebody who has changed a particular way of managing things. If it's been an opinion leader who has done a wonderful work or seminal work on something which is very novel, then a single expert can talk for about 30-45 minutes, followed by clearance of all the doubts by a panel. Dual experts with a panel is also a good idea if you're thinking about a focus area, something which is very narrow in focus, which has very few experts in the field. So you have a couple of experts talking about that various aspects of that particular disease or entity, and then a panel discussion. This is a very popular format, multiple speakers with a panel. Then you can simply have a panel discussion, which doesn't really go well unless you have a nice focus talk or an anchoring talk. A simple panel discussion does not really go well for a long time, maybe 45 minutes to an hour. Interviews are very good format. Like some of the interviews that Sabyasachi Sengupta is doing of researchers, that's a very good format where he throws questions at them, and then it's like a television interview, but it's a very nice structured interview that actually is something that is not explored so much. Cases with discussion and a keynote, and these cases are generally by young ophthalmologists who present a lot of good challenging cases, and these are discussed by faculty, and then everything is summed up in the form of a keynote by an expert. Surgical clips with discussion and keynote is also a good format. Now, if you want to have a series of webinars, not just one, then you have to have a theme, do a very good branding around the theme. Like iFocus is a series of webinars. We are trying to build a theme and do branding to it, and have a regularity of schedule. Every Wednesday and Friday, or every Thursday and Saturday, you have to have a regular schedule at a correct or a consistent time, maintain quality consistently, and make it available for deferred access, because that gets you lots of hits. Now, how to choose a topic? You have to identify the target audience first. What are we aiming at? Are we aiming at trainees? Are we aiming at practicing ophthalmologists? Are we aiming at subspecialists or just comprehensive ophthalmologists? Or are we aiming at everyone? Sometimes aiming at everyone may work if it's a topic of current interest, such as, say, mucormycosis, that coming back to the same example. But if it's a general topic, such as diabetic retinopathy, then who are we aiming at? Of course, we might be aiming at trainees a little bit, but who wants to know about diabetic retinopathy? Not the retina specialist, maybe comprehensive ophthalmologist. and you should know their needs. So you have to do a market survey. So when you want to do a webinar for comprehensive ophthalmologists, it may be a good idea to send them a survey. Whoever answers, but need to know what are their current requirements. Like currently, one of the hot topics that can sell is practice management, because many practices are disrupted, and if somebody can teach them how to salvage their practices and getting back on their feet, that may help. And focus on the needs of your target audience. Don't give them what they really don't want, and give them what they want. And about the faculty, it's a good idea to have key national and international faculty who have built up reputation over a period of time, who have demonstrable work in the area of interest, which is very apparent from their publications and presentations and books, who are opinion leaders, and most importantly, they should be transformative. And the duration, this is again based on a survey that has been conducted of physicians and endocrinologists, not ophthalmologists. Ideal weekday webinar should be 1 hour. Weekend didactic webinar should be 2 hours. And weekend interactive and skills transfer can be up to 3 hours. So nothing beyond 3 hours is what is indicated. But this has the best take. A 1 hour webinar, very crisp, even on a weekend, is a very good idea. And well, of course, this is a famous quote: make sure that you have finished speaking before your audience has finished listening. So talks have to be crisp, well laid out and unhurried, but at the same time should not be very prolonged. 12 to 15 minutes is ideal for a webinar with multiple faculty. Should have an interactive component in the form of polls, quiz with small prizes, and intersperse a set of talks with discussion based on audience questions is a good idea. And it's simple and to the point is always something that is liked. Interactions are like 10 polls for a webinar. If you have interaction in between a set of 2 or 3 talks, then that always draws attention, and people never want to miss interaction, especially if their own questions that have posted are being fielded. And in a webinar environment, don't ever leave the speaker alone. Like now, if I'm speaking, if everybody has turned the camera off, who do I look at and speak? Right? So if there are some speakers who I know, if I'm familiar with, or at least the moderator has turned their camera on, then you get that atmosphere of familiarity. I know we are not new to Zoom. We know that it is impersonal, but still to have that, something which is personal, like somebody looking at you, is a good idea. At least the moderator can keep the camera on, and you have to have an energetic body language. Well, black hole is a no audience energy as feedback. So sometimes you have to bring your own sunshine into the Zoom globe. Webinar environment, you have to concentrate on optimal sound and video quality. Avoid busy slides, heavy videos and animations which may not render well if your internet connection is not good. All right, and maybe a bit of humor. So 92% of webinar attendees want a live question and answer session, and the sweet ending should be discussion. So scheduling secrets, I already mentioned, and success finally is to know your target and aiming for it. And these are some of the quotes about webinars. When they are good, webinars are helpful and useful. When they're great, they're transformative. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Santosh. That was a very comprehensive overview of webinars. Santosh, while you're still with us here, what is your view on using these even post the COVID era? Your take on this? You think that webinars are now here to stay, or will we go back to all physical meetings?
I don't think that is going to happen, because people have got a taste of webinars. Now, for this AIOS meeting, we have the highest number of member registrations. That has never happened earlier. So it may not be so that everybody is sitting and listening to everything that is happening, but people who don't want to travel or who can't travel because traveling and staying is expensive might just want to log in. So hybrid, I think, is the way to go. And also you can get really good international faculty if you have a hybrid format, some speaking from on the webinar mode and some being physically there. That may be better than having just either of those.
Can we put the timer off? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So Santosh, the other thing is I'm talking to Santosh because he has to go to another hall. Otherwise, we'll have an interaction later. Santosh, what about, see, most of the webinars are recorded, and then the recording is often put up on YouTube, or it's there available later. What is your take on, do people actually go to the recording afterwards? Is it worth the energy? And is it costly to record and put it on YouTube?
Not at all. It is free. You can record everything on Zoom or similar platforms, and YouTube, you simply have to have a channel where you can keep posting regularly. And believe me, that has the greatest uptake. For example, iFocus, I have experience with iFocus, which we do regularly. And if on live, if there are 300 postgraduates seeing, within a couple of days, it will be 1,000. And within 3 months, it will be like 5 to 7,000. And sometimes even up to slit lamp video has logged up, I think 12,000 viewers already for a year. And each log is a unique log. So I think it is a very good idea to keep your videos recorded and keep it on a channel, which channel should be eponymous and it should be publicized. It should not be like an obscure channel.
Santosh, I have a suggestion. Yesterday in the National Symposium also I mentioned this. Why can't we use these webinars to extend the panel of teaching? Now say LVP has a very closed door webinar for their own affiliates. Why can't we have, the RP Center and all these people teaching on a national level with webinars so that people can actually learn from organizations who don't need
That
to
is
do
happening. That is happening, Arun, already.
Yeah.
Because
Most of the
even
institutes
Bihar
are
medical
open
colleges now
course.
don't have access to this kind of teaching. And
Yeah.
since I would say now post-graduation, 25% should be compulsorily online.
It is a level playing field now. Everybody has access to everything, right? From Darabhanga to Darjeeling, everybody can watch everybody else. So I don't want to bring in our own program, but again, iFocus has faculty from RP Center to LVPI to Shankar Nethralaya to Guwahati. So you have everybody everywhere. So I think it's a really good level playing field, at least for postgraduates and comprehensive ophthalmology.
Not only that, a program of RP Center or a program of Shankar Nethralaya, the Eklavya program, they are all open to everybody.
Everyone.
So I don't think everybody.
No, what I mean to say, a national teaching faculty, so that people in medical colleges, you see previously private medical colleges are very poor faculty because they used to buy teachers and keep them. Now you can use this method for theoretical teaching and case presentations.
It depends on the
best
teacher. The teacher can always
Yeah.
guide the students to
Correct,
various
correct.
websites, or YouTubes or whatever.
You can have a Yale professor and an All India professor and a Hyderabad professor and a Bombay professor teach the same faculty in Bihar. Teach the same students all over the country. That is how you blend the whole
To some
thing.
extent, Arun, that's being done. Is Gaurav joined us?
No. Shall I start then?
If Gaurav is not here, yes, Arun, you can go ahead.
Thank you. Can you introduce me?
Before that, I'll just introduce Arun. Arun Sethi is a senior practitioner in Delhi and in Gurgaon, and he has a very active presence on various social media. And today he talked to us about Facebook and Facebook Live. I didn't even know that there were two different things between Facebook and Facebook Live. So we'll get educated with Arun and then we'll chat. Go ahead, Arun.
Can you see my slides now?
Not yet.
How do I make them live now?
Go to share screen.
Okay, go to share screen first. Now, how do we get to see? I'm not able to see share screen here. Here it is. Come on. And then I go to this.
If your slideshow is open somewhere, then
it's
open. Share screen,
now
open.
You can see me now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so I wanted to thank Quresh for giving me a topic called Facebook and Facebook Live. Between you and me, I want to confess, I'm not a Facebook user. I'm a WhatsApp man. But the real reason why I enjoyed this topic was that when I did research for this over 2 days, I realized something very interesting, the genesis of Facebook. And I'm going to share that with you. Now, how did Facebook come into being? What is the purpose? What is understanding Facebook Live? Why is Facebook now being used as a marketing tool? What is the word of mouth as compared to the word of social? What ophthalmologists should do and how? And the last thing is conclusion. Is it necessary to be on Facebook for your practice? Now, the purpose of Facebook originally was that it's a robust digital medium which was devised by students in Harvard University to keep in touch with their friends or to find new friends. So they used this medium because they found that once they left college, they could not keep up. Letter writing and all didn't do that. So that is how the idea of Facebook started and it was developed. Now, it's a robust digital medium to find, connect, and socialize with people who have lost touch with them. Social media is important because it allows you to reach, nurture, and engage with your target audience, no matter what your location. In fact, we just discussed with Santosh about this. Now, what is the importance of Facebook? When I went through the available sources, it's very important to realize that Facebook Live are videos that encourage engagement. That people also like to comment on them. So it becomes interactive. The second thing is that Facebook videos are very cost effective. If you actually try and get a corporate movie made, yesterday I had somebody giving me the proposal, they're in the budget of 3 to 5 lakhs by the time you get a professional equipment. These can be done for as little as 100 rupees if you have a good camera in your cell phone. Then Facebook Live videos also save a lot of time because you can do them quickly and you can upload them and you can move on. Facebook Live videos also create a sense of community because the major benefit is that if you're driving through traffic or the business pages, these encourage engagement and allow for product promotions users in your defined area. Now, I'll give you an example in the coming later. You can actually do this kind of marketing for a limited zone. Now, I practice in Gurgaon and Delhi. I don't need to advertise myself in Bombay. So I can do a very focused kind of a awareness campaign for the community. Then what does the video do? It encourages traffic. Once traffic comes in, sees a video, people interact with you, your name gets known. So that is the important part of it. Now, Now, what is the motive behind Facebook? Now, Facebook was originally designed, and this is a study done by Elsevier Research. Okay, it's published in Elsevier. Facebook offers the following: exhibitionism. Majority of the people who are introverts who are hesitant to talk to people have today become the most vocal users of Facebook because sitting in the privacy of their room, they're able to tell and expose things which they're very hesitant to do on the stage. Number two, companionship. It creates a sense of companionship because where it was designed, 60% of the people in Harvard were then single, they were ready to mingle. So it brought out a companionship through Facebook and WhatsApp, which doesn't happen. Like without WhatsApp and Facebook, none of the people you're interacting with, you would normally interact with even once in a year. Second is entertainment, as we all know, escapism and passing time. Then comes social curiosity. Everybody wants to go to Facebook and see what jewels is so-and-so wearing, what is the actress's dress, all these things you come to know of it. Then comes relationships. Number one, formation. Today you find a lot of people date online. They go for dinners after that. They get married. So a lot of people use this for formation and for maintenance of relationships. And of course, as a marketing and branding platform, which was not the intention when Facebook was formed. Now, next comes Facebook as a marketing tool. Now, why is it considered such an effective marketing tool today? Number one is it has unlimited reach with easy management. So it's something like your webinars once you understand them. Second thing is it provides very targeted advertising. Now, as an eye surgeon, I don't need to target myself to people who don't have an eye problem. It costs a lot of money. Putting a half-page ad in the newspaper puts you back by 1 month's income. And you don't need to because you're not in the business of creating a name. You are in the business of going to the right focus so people who have eye problems could reach you. So it's very, very targeted advertising. Second is adaptive campaigns with detailed insights. So this is the power you hold. If you actually go to Facebook and tell them, I want to launch a campaign and this is my budget, they will actually work on a campaign for you and tell you how to do it so that you reach the proper people in the proper format. If you're a cataract surgeon, you're targeting the cataract age group. If you're a LASIK surgeon, you're targeting the teenagers in the 19 to 40 age group or beyond teenagers. So basically, you can actually target to know what you're doing and you don't waste your money to that extent. Then you see now this is the most important thing. Everybody says that 70% of the industry's big practice in ophthalmology depends on word of mouth. If your patients are not going to speak well of you or your practice, you are not going to be a successful practitioner, whatever you may do. That is why you find sometimes the people who are not very good in interpersonal relationship, who are not people's persons, they do very well as directors of government institutes, but they flop as private practitioners because the art of interacting is not there. So word of mouth and referrals will only come with that. Now, word of mouth is limitation. You can only do it on a one-to-one basis. You see one patient and he goes back home and he talks well of you and sends you another patient. But word of social is what you do through Facebook and others in social media. So word of mouth becomes a word of social because you interact. Most of us enter our WhatsApp pages, I think every 1 hour. There may be some less, some more. I've seen people who are online all the time on WhatsApp. I've seen people who are online at 4 o'clock in the morning. You know, what does it show? It shows that their word of mouth is now a word of social. They are there, you're sending them a message, they're responding to your message. Now, those who don't have a word of mouth, a word of social, don't need this. You'll find very rarely reply to your messages. You can send thousands of emails and you may get 2 responses. You may send a mass campaigning on WhatsApp that you're doing a symposium, and hardly anybody today gives you a thumbs up or response to it. You get it? So that is the difference between the word of mouth and word of social. Now you come to this. Now, what should ophthalmologists do and how? So what is basically happening is that we have to understand who your patients are, their behaviors, where they live, where they work. Now, my understanding of our practice in Gurgaon today is, when we started this hospital in 2006, we were getting patients from a range of nearly 90 kilometers, right up to Minister, Alwar, and all. Now, we have something like 450 ophthalmologists practicing in New Gurgaon. We have major hospitals like Artemis and Vedanta and all. Now the whole practice is changing. It's people who are coming within the range of 2 to 3 kilometers. Nobody's coming from Alwar for a refraction. Nobody's coming from Bombay for a cataract, which I used to do in our hospital because we were attached to Vedanta for 3 years and all the patients came to us for surgery. Similarly, we have to communicate with those who require our services. So it's very important that we are able to be seen on the Facebook. But how do you get to be seen? You should not be seen as a very aggressive person. You should not be marketing yourself. Our doctors are not supposed to market themselves. It puts up a patient. You see, that is why you find that most of the doctors who are very aggressive in marketing, over a period of time, lose the volume of practice they have. You have to be very genuine. Because when you as a patient go to a doctor, you don't want smart talks. You don't want him to give you a 4-color ad. You don't want him to tell you things which you want to hear. You want to know what disease you have, what is the best method of treating it, and you want to get out at the earliest because it's not a pleasurable trip. So never publish any misleading contention. People have started advertising, they're giving discounts, they're doing this, they're doing that. That in the long run doesn't pay. Most important is that if you can't do it yourself, engage with some digital marketing agency which has experience in healthcare so that you can do it. Now, the most important thing is the strategies to adopt. So you have to have a search engine optimization, you have to have a social media pages management, you have to have a campaign management for broader awareness, you have to have social media outreach for your social worker. We have one floor dedicated to charity. So we have to reach the paying population for our private floors. We have to reach the people who need to be brought in, who cannot afford to pay. Now, reaching people who cannot afford to pay is the most difficult thing in Gurgaon. Because everybody is living in luxury here. We have condominiums, we have golf courses, we have no juggies and jhoppies and this. So we have to tell the homeowners that we have a floor for your servants, for the poor, and you can send them to us. So that has a different kind of outreach. Then all media work has to be done by professional management. Now, creating a bigger online presence. Now, what is our objective to go on Facebook? We at Arunodaya are very clear that if a patient is looking for an eye doctor, ophthalmologist, or emergency eye care, he should at least be aware we are around. You'll be surprised. I had a patient who lives just 2 minutes walking distance from here. And he said he did not know we existed. He had come to this colony in 2006. We were running a hospital in a 700 square yard plot with 14,000 square feet with the national flag on top. And he said he didn't know it was an eye hospital. Isn't that beauty? Arvind did a study and they found that only 22% of people in Madurai are aware of Arvind Eye Hospital. So it's very important in how you brand yourself, how your services are available, your online consultations, and most important is that and it's also important that a lot of things are linked with your website. So when people go there, they get it. Lastly, I would like to tell you that what are some of the stats? Now, these are the ways you can advertise yourself on Facebook. Tell them you've got a 35 years, 3-generation practice, you have 2 centers, you've seen so many patients, you've got so many, but don't tell them, I do the best cataract, I have the smallest incision size. Then you actually make it cheap. In conclusion, the question comes, is it necessary to advertise? The question is today, most of the people are only on social media. There is no way in COVID to go out and make friends, to rub shoulders. It's very, so that is why most of the doctors are moving onto social media, and it is a platform which is versatile. And lastly, I would like to say that the best marketing should be done in such a way that it should not feel like marketing. It's like when you date a young girl, you actually make her feel that you're in love with her, that you want to marry her. It has to be so subtly done. If it comes out as a crass marketing effect, it doesn't work in the long run, especially in the paying population. So I'd like you to know that please, if you like anything on Facebook, you share it with your friends and you follow it. So design it in such a way that people enjoy your things. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Arun. Please stop your screen share.
Okay, here we go.
We have, that was an excellent presentation on Facebook and what we can use it for and what ethical marketing is all about. A little known part of social media is a device or something called LinkedIn. And there are many professionals who are using this to find other professionals, to find eye doctors, also to find for job opportunities and for many other things. Again, it's something which not too many ophthalmologists are into. And to give us some insight into this and similar forms of communication, social media, we have Dr. Gaurav Luthra, who runs a very busy practice in Dehradun. Gaurav, are you with us?
Yes, sir. Very much. Thank you so much, sir. I'll just share my screen, and I'm grateful that you asked me to speak on this because it gave me a lot of new insights into LinkedIn, which I myself didn't know about, before I started preparing for your course. But I've been on LinkedIn for many, many years, and it's grown on me. So here goes. Okay. So not only how it has helped me, how it can help our ophthalmology friends. So for those of us who already know and they're already on LinkedIn, I think it won't matter, but LinkedIn is the social network that focuses on professional networking, unlike Facebook and Instagram, where you are more for social networking. This is more for your professional growth and, networking with your colleagues or with colleagues from other professionals in other lines as well. I mean, like computer professionals, HR professionals, anybody, and you do need to know them other than ophthalmologists. If your network is limited just to the ophthalmologists, it will become really boring. So you can actually use LinkedIn. When it started off, it was made to display your resume, search for jobs. So it was more like a job portal, and they were mostly all HR people. When I joined LinkedIn about 7, 8, 10 years back, it was mostly being used. It's owned by Microsoft, and it was being mostly used by the HR people, and people who are looking for jobs. So it was a little boring to begin with, but gradually it grows on you because it keeps offering you connections, and I'll show you how it works. And it's free, but they have a premium service as well. This is how the screen looks when you log in for the first time. I mean, you don't even log in, you go to LinkedIn. This says, welcome to your professional community, search for a job, find a person and learn a new skill. So these are probably the 3 things which most people would use LinkedIn for once they join it, and much beyond this. So how is it different from other social media? So despite the professional focus, LinkedIn is quite similar to other social networking sites in the way it works, but it utilizes them in a different way. And it's basically based on principles like connecting to friends, for example, on Facebook, posting updates and sharing and liking content, and also has a messaging app. So, however, it always puts a professional spin on ideas, and your profile is the key thing which is there with LinkedIn, because that's what everybody first sees, and then only they kind of network with you or connect with you. Now, unlike Facebook and Instagram, where you are very fussy about who likes you, at least your main profile, maybe you'll create a page there which you leave open for anybody to like. But if you have a profile, you'll get friend requests for so many people, some of them from the industry, some of your patients. You may not connect to them at all. And whereas on LinkedIn, you'll find it much easier to connect to your colleagues in the ophthalmic industry, from the healthcare industry, from so many other places whom you would be reluctant to connect, because here you're not sharing any of your social stuff, you're not sharing your family photographs, and you're not sharing your personal moments, which you'll probably only want your close friends to be able to see. So this is how it looks if you compare them. This 300 million is actually now 500 million plus, and I'm sure Facebook has more followers now, and Twitter, which has. So how are they different? Purpose for LinkedIn would be networking and job search primarily. Facebook is more for socializing and building a fan base, and maybe marketing today. Everything is going into marketing now. Even LinkedIn probably works towards marketing as well. Twitter is totally a different baby, and you're kind of expressing your views and wanting to be heard. So it's kind of important to be on Twitter today as well. And Insta is mostly photo based, so you build influence through your high quality photographs and videos and live videos. So this is a very nice slide which I found. So if you're eating a donut on Twitter, you'll announce I'm eating a donut. On Facebook, I like donuts. And different of those. Instagram, here's a vintage photo of me eating a donut. So this is just a joke. On YouTube, you might just put here, I'm eating a donut, and show it on a video. And on LinkedIn, you'll show it as my skills include donut eating. So it's how you want to put it and how you want to portray it. Social media can be used in so many different ways. So I'm impressed to see this, that with 575 million followers and 260 active users every month, the top 10 users by profession. So obviously IT people are the ones who are using LinkedIn the most, but hospital and healthcare comes number 2. Isn't that surprising? I would have thought that, so many other industries would probably come before healthcare, but surprisingly, LinkedIn is very popular with healthcare people just after information technology. And what do we primarily use LinkedIn for? So get back in touch with old colleagues. You can actually very easily connect. It's very intuitive. You can connect with all those people who are from your medical college, from your school, because it immediately starts showing up, and I'll show you how. And you can use primarily LinkedIn because it uses your profile as your resume. And people can go through where you have worked before, when you started your career, where all you have moved during the last 10, 15, 20 years. So for people who are moving and looking for new jobs, or those who are recruiting as well, for them, it really works well to check out. For example, somebody applies to your hospital for a HR manager, or a hospital manager, or a pharmacist, or a doctor's profile. You can actually go back and look at them and see how they have done in their previous career, and how many recommendations they have. So beyond jobs, you can connect with new professionals in your own field and network with them. Many ophthalmologists find it much easier to connect with me on LinkedIn than they would on Facebook and maybe on other forums. And you can participate in relevant groups, and you can blog. This is another key feature of LinkedIn. You can blog about what you like to talk about. So you can express your views, and then it can reach out to all those people who know you really well. So it has a home tab on top, and then it has a profile tab. This is how my page looks. So if you look here on top, this is how it's almost like a Facebook feed. And you can, the first thing that showed up on my feed was our past president, Dr. Mahipal Sajdev. It says first here, which means he's my first contact. And he has shared something from his hospital site. So you can actually have people sharing stuff from their professional sites as well. And then it shows you how many people over here. It shows that how many people viewed my profile. So 45 people viewed my profile recently on LinkedIn. And how many people saw my post? So about 261 people saw my last post. Going on, this is another profile which is more professionally done. My profile is quite poor actually, but this guy has a very good profile. He has a background where his work experience can be increased. You can see his education, his licenses and certifications. So ophthalmologists, I saw they put up all their publications here, then their volunteering experience, their skills, their accomplishments, so many things. How many languages? Dr. Muscati speaks 5 languages, I realized after looking at his profile. So this is another section where you have a dashboard. Now this is our course instructor. His profile has a missing picture right on top, which he should update. And also we have 3 mutual groups. It's really nice to see that. And if you go through this, he's a gold medalist in DOMS. Lot of stuff there. He was the president in 2014-15. His experience in the clinic, president of the Cornea Society. So you see, somebody who doesn't even know him will find so much for him over there. And you can go on and on. And then this is Dr. Honavar. Let's skip this. A very nice biodata here he has developed. So something like this, you should have about section should be nicely filled up. This is what most people read. Let me go on and sir, how much more time do I have? 2 minutes?
Yeah, you go ahead. You have 3 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, sir. So very nicely done. 5 reasons to create a LinkedIn profile. It's a great way to connect with people. It's a great way to network with top professionals. So there are a lot of people you can network, and I'll show you just in the future how. It has a wealth of knowledge on subjects that you care for. So you can join groups, and you can join information, periodicals and news which relate to you, relate what you would like to do. And you can showcase your skills and talents. So it's not wrong to showcase your skills and talents on LinkedIn, because everybody is actually looking for them. So you can a little bit boast about yourself if you want, without kind of boasting. And so this is how my network looks like. So when you go on the top tab, you have a home window, and then you have my network. So it shows me that I have 165 connections, and I follow only about 10 people, but you have groups which you can follow, you have pages that you can follow, and you have newsletters which are really interesting. And these are some of the people who have sent me a friend request to connect. Amongst them, Dr. Kasturi Bhattacharya. So I'll be so happy to connect with her, and I'll just click on accept over there. And then it starts suggesting people whom you could connect to. So it shows me industry leaders from other fields, like he's a consultant endocrinologist, and LinkedIn kind of is intuitive. So it knows what you're looking for. It keeps seeing what are your likes and dislikes, and it keeps suggesting what kind of people you might want to network with. So you have, first contacts, and then you have second, and then you have third contacts. These are your real connections. And then through them, you will know a few people. So when you look at anybody's profile on LinkedIn, it'll tell you whether that person is a first or a second or a third. A third means that you know that person through 2 other contacts, but that makes it easy. For example, if I want to make
You have 2 minutes more.
Okay, sir. if I want to make friends with this guy on the third contact and I don't directly know him, I'll know how to reach him because I'll know his second contact through whom I can get the first contact. So if I know Dr. Quresh, I can, he can introduce me to Quresh's friend whom I don't directly know, and he can further introduce me to this guy who could be Bill Gates, So that way I could, become friends with Bill Gates and maybe have some work with him. Now, these are all the contacts that I have, so it doesn't matter. But it also shows you, like in my hospital, Drishtiya Institute, it shows me all those people who are working in my hospital and are members of LinkedIn. So I can actually network with my own staff. Now, I'm not connected to many of them, but it shows me some of the doctors, my graphic designer, my biomedical engineer, my hospital manager. So many people are there, and you can actually connect if you want to, or you can see what they're doing and what activities they're doing. Okay, you can connect with a lot of people in the hospital and healthcare industry. So it has suggested that George Alio is one of the people I could connect to, somebody who's director at Max. If you know them, you would like to connect. If you don't know them, you can send a request and introduce yourself. So I tried to connect to George Alio and I sent him a request. And as I sent a request to George Alio, it showed me this guy who's Terry Kim. He's the president of ASCRS, and said, would you like to network with him? So I have sent him a request as well. And most likely he will accept it and I will be connected to him. If I need some help in the ASCRS, I could easily message him. Most people respond very quickly on LinkedIn messaging because it also goes to them on email. So job searches, I will leave out here but our youngsters could very actively use this for searching for jobs. So it's very useful for even the youngsters now and for interests. So, it will suggest to you that you could be joining ophthalmology industry groups or marketing groups. You could also, it tells you whether you would like to follow Cleveland Clinic, Harvard Medical School. So they keep posting updates, American Medical. So there are so many things, a Cochrane review, if you would like to. So it keeps suggesting these to you. So you could, then it suggests which kind of channels you could like to follow, iTube and all. So they all keep posting regular updates. Again, it tells you what kind of newsletters you might be interested in. So these are really useful newsletters on how to master your time and productivity management. I know Dr. Quresh is looking at his watch. And then, so the messaging app is pretty useful. I'll come towards the end. The messaging app is pretty much similar to Messenger or WhatsApp. You can learn how to use it, but most people respond on this. It gives you notifications. You can congratulate people, who are having anniversaries. And the last two slides, sir, you have almost all hospitals and all businesses have their own pages. Like Center for Sight has this. It tells you even how many people, it was last funding was $32.2 million from somebody there. And it tells you how many staff work there, 536. You can connect with their staff if you want. If you are looking for job prospects, you can look up these places and see. It even tells you that also the 536 employees, where they live, where they work, where they studied. So you'll know how is the profile of the staff who works there. And then it started suggesting ASG on the right side, IQ Vision, other places which are similar to Center for Sight. So I think coming on to the last thing, to summarize, LinkedIn can be a very useful resource for professionals like us, not just computer professionals and IT professionals. And doctors, young and senior, can all have their interests looked after in very different ways. And after the directionless time spent on Facebook and Instagram, this can be time well spent once in a week or so. And if you're not on LinkedIn still, please consider doing that. I'm sorry, I had to.
Thank you, Gaurav. That was a very comprehensive review of a medium which is not well exploited by doctors and which can be to our advantage. So thank you for pointing out all the facets of LinkedIn, which is not merely a job portal anymore. It's grown hugely. Thank you so much, Gaurav. We'll move on to our next speaker, who is Dr. Tushar Grover, who is well versed with multiple opportunities on social media, whether it is blogging or Instagram or what have you. So invite Tushar to share his screen.
Thank you, sir. My honor to be in your IC. So thank you for having me. So I'll be talking about, I would take about 8 minutes, maybe half a minute longer. So I'll be talking about Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and blogs. So I'll try and cover them as quickly as I can. To begin with, what is so unique about Twitter? So Twitter is what is called a micro blogging platform. So you can post with characters up to 280 characters long. You can have posts which are up to 280 characters long. The users who are on Twitter are usually quite passionate, are extremely well informed, and there's a lot of discussion and a lot of debate that happens on various issues on Twitter. So, and here people let loose, they talk to strangers, they engage with personalities from all walks of life, because the default setting here is public. So you really can reply to anybody, retweet anybody's post. And so, you can engage with celebrities, they often engage with you back. So that's the kind of ecosystem that Twitter is. So how can ophthalmologists make the most of it? These are some really nice profiles that I found. So you need to have a good picture, a nice cover image, something that talks about your practice, and a link to your website. So these kinds of profiles are really good to have on Twitter. when you post content on Twitter, the important thing about Twitter is that your content needs to be unique, because only then you're going to get any engagement happening. Try and use images, use links if you can, and very, very important to use relevant hashtags on Twitter, because who knows, if you have good content and good hashtags, you could be trending on Twitter. So that's important. Try and avoid giving any clinical advice on Twitter or any other social media for that matter. What is also important is to not just tweet what you are thinking, but also to try and listen and see what others are talking about. And you can always retweet and reply to people, tag people who are related to what you are talking about. So that engagement has to come from both sides, from you to them, for them to have engagement towards your post. So that becomes important on Twitter. What is also very, very interesting with Twitter is, you have all these organizations giving extremely witty responses. So if Mumbai Police or Delhi Metro Rail Corporation can be known for their witty replies, then why can't we ophthalmologists do it? So that's what trends on Twitter, and that's what catches the eye of people. So moving on to Instagram. Instagram is all about visual appeal. You need to have interesting pictures, videos, colorful posts. So that's what Instagram is about. People here are quite different from Twitter. People here are usually much younger. It's a much younger audience. They're more creative, looking for fun, looking to see what their loved ones are up to. And there are a lot of entertaining content creators who post on Instagram. So here again, if you do intend to post as a professional, it's good to switch to a professional account. This is my personal. So if I would want to use it for professional reasons, I would want to switch to a professional account here. Again, fill out your practice information, have a little bit about what your core areas of specialization are. And I mean, some of you might know this is really ophthalmologists' new playground now. There are so many ophthalmologists who are on Instagram, who post interesting content, have a good number of followers, and get a lot of views. So we use it for our aesthetics page. You can use it to demonstrate post-operative results with permission from the patient, of course, because these are visual things. You can see and appreciate the changes that happen. So this is something that can be posted on Instagram. A lot of people post patient feedbacks. That's Dr. Advait, Dr. Nishant, one from our center. So these are again visually appealing. You have a picture with the patient, and you can use it to create awareness. So so Dr. Aarti talking about how cataract surgery is a lot more complicated than the patient thinks. Dr. Karishma talking about the symptoms of keratoconus. And so everything is very visually appealing. You have interesting headings, So this is the kind of content that works on Instagram. Moving on to YouTube. So YouTube is all about the enormous appeal that videos have, that you can't have with text or with images. What is also important about YouTube is that it's also the second most commonly used search engine. So when you search for something on Google, you also see a lot of videos on the first page of Google. So that's why this is also very, very important for you to be found on a Google search. And users here are quite personally involved. They comment a lot. You can also get a downvote for your vote. This is probably the only platform where people can dislike what you post. And because they see you as a person, there's more give and take involved in YouTube. So I'll be showing examples of what we do. So here again, you should have a nice cover for your channel, talk a little bit about yourself without boasting or anything of that sort. And then try and have some different playlists where you're trying to talk about what those videos contain. So there are some videos for patient education. There are some videos which are academic or surgical videos. So it's good to have them segregated and differentiated. You don't want a patient seeing a tarsal fracture video, because the patient might not appreciate that too much. So you can put out patient educational content, because that again increases your visibility, and it helps the patient as well. They would want to know more about common conditions. As we know, in YouTube, there are a lot of our peers as well. We do look at surgical videos, something new that we are doing. So sharing that is also a good idea on YouTube, because first of all, you are educating people. Second, you are kind of demonstrating what you're doing. So that is also something that can be done on YouTube, and this is ideal for YouTube. If you have any profile videos, whether it's professionally shot or if you've done it yourself, just need some good editing, that also just adds a little bit of professionalism to your YouTube profile. And when patients see it, it does improve your perception a little bit. So moving on to blogs, it's important to promote balanced and educational content again on blogs. It's important not to talk about ourselves, not to talk about, you, but more to talk about things that patients might want to know about. Indirectly, you do end up promoting yourself, but should not be done directly at all. And if you can get a domain name, that is quite useful. I mean, you don't have to call it a blog. You can call it patient awareness, or you can call it press and media coverage if it's been covered in newspapers or media articles. And it's quite reasonable to get a website domain, and you can design it yourself. I mean, you don't need to professionally do it. It's quite easy now. You can just do it yourself, put a little bit of patient testimonials, and then again make it more about education, more about topic related. And then again, it's important to have some connects with electronic press media. People don't read physical newspapers too much anymore, but everybody does see these articles on the digital media, on the digital platform. So when somebody does look for, say, dry eyes, and there's a news article where you're talking about it, even if it's a blog that you shared with the news article website, then it does increase your visibility and does increase your credibility as well. So that is also something that can be done. And the other things to work on is, even if you have a blog or you have your own, say your institute or your center website, it's important to do some search engine optimization. This is not something that is easy to do yourself because it takes a lot of time. So ideally have somebody professional to do search engine optimization. Local search engine optimization is when somebody, say, types something like best eye clinic in Delhi or best eye clinic near me, and they find you on the Google map listings. The usual search engine optimization is them finding you on the first page of Google. So if you're putting out content, it's also important that people find you. And for that, you need to have search engine optimization. And that is important for YouTube as well. So get that done professionally so that you have relevant keywords that are available when people are looking for you. So just to summarize, Twitter involves a more engaging, a more aware audience. There are important issues that are discussed there. And you need to post unique content which is within your character limit. Instagram is more of a younger audience, and the visual appeal of the content is extremely important here. Twitter is all about the YouTube is all about the enormous appeal that videos have, and search engine optimization and having the right keywords is important here. For blogs, it's important to put out balanced and educational content. It's important also to have connect with journalists, public relations, etc., so that you have your articles or your blogs out there with good news journals and all of that. So that helps as well. So thank you, and thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you, Tushar. Tushar, you talked about blogs.
Yeah.
And I sort of was wondering what's exactly the difference between a blog and a website of your own.
Yeah, so blog is you posting material about, say, a particular topic. So you can do that without a domain name, say xyz.blogspot.com, or you can have a domain name and post that. So the material that way is the same. A website, like for example, if you see somebody's bios, talk something that is describing that person, that's not a blog. But say I talk about dry eye and I tell people why is dry eye common in the summers, or what they have to do to prevent that. That is a blog. And I can do that on my own domain name, or I can do that on somebody else's domain.
So I think a website is more static, while a blog is more dynamic. You can keep changing it every day, but website, normally people make it and forget it. That's another issue which I have. In case you do have a website of your own, I think at least once in 2 months or 3 months, you should update it, because otherwise the information there is often quite stale. Your biodata has changed. You've done some more stuff. So we need to update our websites from time to time. While blogs, as Tushar correctly says, you can keep putting out new blogs, different seasons, different timings, different maladies affecting people. So blog is more dynamic, but I would urge everyone to have a website. It's not that expensive. Tushar, approximately the cost of a website, decent website for about a few thousand rupees.
Yeah, you can get it for about
20,000-30,000
a year. About 6,000 to 8,000 a year, you can get it.
Yeah, and there is a cost to a yearly fee also to maintain the website.
Yeah, and you can if you pay somebody to design it, that will cost more, but it's actually quite easy to do it yourself. If you just spend maybe a couple of hours to learn how to do it, it's not that difficult.
Yeah, and if you have friends in the they can give you some help in aesthetics if you're not so good in that.
Yeah.
But you don't crowd your website with too much, but make it easy for them to touch the screen and to get links to different things,
Yeah.
rather than have everything on. It doesn't have to be one page. It can be more
Yeah.
than one page.
You can have a blog. You can have a blog on your website as well, which you can constantly update yourself. So we have a blog section on our website, which our staff can update. Every time I give them something to post, it comes up there, and that blog section can be good on your website as well.
Yeah. There are also some Google posts which people keep on updating.
Yeah.
You can post on Google also, Tushar.
Yeah, that's on your Google My Business account, sir. So if you're listed on Google Maps, everybody who's listed on Google Maps has a Google My Business account. So with that is where if somebody rates you on Google, all of that goes there as well. So that is where you can also put your posts, and that becomes visible when somebody searches for you on Google.
Okay.
But also it depends a lot on the area in which you practice.
Yes.
Like I've seen in Delhi, the practice is more by word of mouth, and people are very well established, and they go to known doctors. They won't just change the doctor because of a website.
True.
In Gurgaon, you find everybody looking at the website. Everybody's coming through the website, through internet, because they're all coming from different parts of the country to do work for 2 or 3 years here to move on. So whenever they need an ophthalmologist to do that. But the other thing which I found very interesting is that ophthalmologists seem to be very energetic in the social media platform. Certain specialties like gynecologists, dermatologists, you hardly see them. I think ophthalmologists, there's been a lot of competition, and they have to sort of find their own way around. That makes them do all these things. Because I've not seen others, my daughter was a gynecologist, and she has a little Instagram and a website, but not the way ophthalmologists go about it. And maybe the specialty doesn't require this kind of exposure, I don't know.
Yeah.
But trends are changing, Arun, and
IVF is changing it. IVF is changing a lot.
Yeah.
And I think another thing. Sorry.
Yeah, Tushar, go ahead.
So another thing I think that social media helps you with is that even if the patient is not actually finding you on social media, if the patient has consulted you once, say somebody referred to you, and before they get a surgery done, there is absolutely 100% chance they're going to search for you on Google, and they're going to look for you on the internet. So if you have no presence there, that does eventually affect your image of that the patient has, and your chances of getting a conversion on that surgery as well, in a way.
Very true. I would urge all see, the youngsters are already there, but I would urge all those in the sort of middle group between the ages of say 50 and 60 to also drop their hesitancy of social media, and of course drop the fact that it is unethical. It is not unethical, as pointed out by previous speakers. The ethical marketing on social media is absolutely fine. You're not bragging about how great you are. You're telling them the facilities that you have. That, as Arun said, he had a large hospital there, and somebody who was a next door neighbor didn't know it was a hospital over there. So people don't look at your hospital physically. They look at you on social media and then find you. So there are various ways in which people will find you, and it's no longer the word of mouth which will always hold true. Yes, for a senior practitioner who say 70, 75, he's got his quota of patients and those children and their children. So second and third generation patients from the same families do come to him. But India is changing. India, as Arun said, in Gurgaon, there's a floating population, and everywhere we find now that there's a floating population who doesn't know you. You may have been established there as a second generation, as Arun is a third generation for 50, 60 years. But they have not stuck there because they've just landed in the city 15 days back or whatever, and they've got a conjunctivitis. So unless you're on social media, they're not really going to find you. So all of us on all age groups need to find. Yes, Gaurav.
So I wanted to say that there's a flip side also to social media, which we should be aware of. That's the reviews, so like Facebook and Google reviews. So just like Tushar said that Google pages, business pages, so we also manage those pages. And many of us won't even know there's a page created for you, and you have not owned it up, but it's there, and you may be present on Google without knowing it. And if you know it, of course, it's nice, but people post reviews, and there are times when people who are frustrated waiting in your clinic outside, or if they were not getting an appointment, or if they felt that they were, not looked after well, they'll just go back home and immediately put a 1-star review and write something horrendous, which you can't do anything about. You can respond to it by giving a clarification, but you can't remove those reviews. So it's very important. This review game is also very dangerous because, it can be used maliciously and, with a consent. I remember Kamal Kapoor telling me that somebody, paid money or something, and, they got like 100 or 200 1-star reviews within 24 hours. So there are just like a, virus attack.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think one has to be careful about your online reputation. And now there are people who specialize in looking after your online reputation to see that, your reputation is maintained clean as well. So all that is going beyond what we just discussed.
Okay.
The other thing that I would like to say is that whenever I compare our practice with the previous generation, most of us here are second or third generation, as Kulesh said. The first generation had the advantage that the patient came to them when they needed the doctor. Now the doctor needs the patient. That's how the dynamics have changed. It's a real fact. The doctor needs the patient doesn't need the doctor. I was very impressed, my neighbor in Naresh today. I said, now when you had COVID, his average of bypass cardiac surgeries dropped from 12 a day to 2 a day. The question is what happened to those 10 every day who needed a bypass? Did they actually need a bypass? Were they sitting behind because they had COVID? Were they managing medically? So it's very interesting to see. Why I'm saying it is that sometimes by going in for volumes and footfalls, you actually burn the candle at both ends. And you actually create a feeling in the society that the doctor is looking at his benefit rather than yours. And once that feeling comes in, which is coming in a large percentage of the population, like even in the social jokes, in morning walks when I go, people joke and say, oh, doctor, how much is your pocket filled today? How did you manage, Oh, you're attached to a polo, then you must be carrying a sack home. This is the kind of feeling people get. And we make it worse by advertising. So I still remember the words of an American who said, a doctor who advertises that he does a phaco in 10 minutes should also advertise that his patient is going to say if it's 10 minutes, then why not $10? You're only spending 10 minutes on my eye. I thought it was a question of art and science and training and years of persuasion and, a lot of other things that go with it. So you never find people saying, I do a 5-minute delivery, a 7-minute cesarean, 9-minute bypass. You only hear in ophthalmology all these kind of flab. So we have to come back a bit and be more humane, be more, I would say, professional.
Yeah, true. I think I will now talk about another social media thing, which is the WhatsApp, and then we'll have some more interaction.
So I think I'll introduce Dr. Kulesh Muscati because nobody has. Dr. Kulesh Muscati knows no introduction. He's a happily married man, a grandfather. He's passing good time on social media. Very good on WhatsApp. You send him a message, you get a reply. Apart from that, he's a very knowledgeable ophthalmologist, traveled the globe, has held all the positions, and anything more you need, go to LinkedIn. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, let me share my screen now. Okay, as Santosh said, one of the most hated words. Can you see my screen and am I audible now? So yes, we'll talk about WhatsApp, its use and abuse. Many of us are prisoners to WhatsApp. That's the picture of the famous Asrani saying, "Good morning, prisoners of WhatsApp." And most of us are somehow prisoners of this. We have our current AIOS president who hates WhatsApp and doesn't use it. So we have both, but we need to be careful and judicious. It's a great tool if we are careful and judicious in our use of WhatsApp. Can I use WhatsApp to enhance practice? I'll give you examples of people who do that. There's a youngster who's starting practice. It doesn't have too many patients, but he keeps a meticulous record of all his patients and he divides them by, has a method in his computer of storing them by birthdays, by wedding anniversaries, and he also classifies them religion-wise. So he says, I have a lot of free time on my hands. So on birthdays of my patients, like on January 1st, I know there are 11 patients who got birthdays. So I will send them all 11 a personalized WhatsApp and greet them on their birthdays, also on wedding anniversaries, on Eid and on Raksha Bandhan and on various festivals. You will greet people of the relevant community on this. Now, this is fine when your practice is small and restricted to less than 100 people or so. But it's something that you can use to enhance practice in the early stages. Second is replying to patient queries to an extent. So whether you give your mobile number to patients or not, they get it usually. And then they will send you a question, doctor, should I put 1 drop in the eye or 2 drops? And you have to counter your anger and thank God that the query hasn't come at 2 a.m. on a phone call, and reply to the patient patiently on the WhatsApp. And a quick turnaround time for the patients, because for the patient, it's an emergency. He doesn't know whether you put it 1 drop or 2 drops. So a quick reply, a quick turnaround time does enhance your credibility in the patient's eye. Then you can join professional groups. Most of us, we have a Bombay Ophthalmic Association group. You have a Maharashtra Ophthalmic Society group. You might have a Delhi Ophthalmic Society, DOS WhatsApp group, and so on. So if you join these professional groups, or you can have a Cornea Society of India or a Squint Society groups, where people contribute interesting cases or surgeries and learn from others' contributions. So it's nice to join these WhatsApp groups. Of course, we have a limitation that only 256 people can come into a WhatsApp group. A Telegram is there with a much larger reach, but somehow Telegram is, because WhatsApp came first, Telegram is not really caught on in a very big way. And there are people I know who use paid teleconsultations using WhatsApp video. So there are various ways in which you can have, during the COVID times, there were people who are doing only teleconsultations and they would invite. So you have FaceTime video, you can have the WhatsApp video as well, so that the patient can post pictures or even a video of their eye and show you. And you can, of course, tell the patient that this is my bank account details, please put the money there and then call me after half an hour. And then therefore you can charge them for consultation as well. So definitely there are various ways besides the good mornings and the mushy messages that crowd and our WhatsApp. There are ways in which we can use WhatsApp to enhance our practice. If we are using WhatsApp, there is some WhatsApp etiquette. Avoid foul language. Even if you think that everyone is adult and like all our ophthalmologists in your group, avoid foul language. It doesn't really help. Even if you want to curse a political personality, don't use foul language. First of all, don't avoid comments on politics and politicians, religion and religious leaders, or on national events in your professional groups, because you're bound to hurt some colleague of yours who doesn't share the same opinion. I mean, I really know of some eye surgeons who even like Mr. Arvind Kejriwal. So, I mean, there are, there's no point in running down somebody or criticizing the way in which that politician has handled COVID or has handled vaccination or has handled any situation. And avoid forwards. Unless they are relevant and authentic forwards, then they're going to benefit the community that you're forwarding it to. Don't, I'm talking about professional WhatsApp now, not about your personal WhatsApp with your family and friends. But avoid forwards on a professional WhatsApp group unless it's relevant. I mean, how does it matter if there is a event which has occurred, an earthquake in Iran? Why does the whole Bombay Ophthalmic Association have to see 20 pictures of the earthquake in Iran? It's not really relevant to that group. So it could be authentic, but if it's not relevant, don't put it there. And stick to English in your professional groups, because many of the members are from across the country or from international membership. And you can't put Urdu or Hindi over there and then not having them follow what you're saying. Avoid good mornings or clever, mushy forwards. Remember that there are professional people who are designing these forwards just to enhance the use of the medium or to enhance the use of cell phones. So avoid all these. You can do it in your private messages to your mistress or girlfriend, but avoid these in the professional group, because it really hurts. You open a forward, you open a Bombay Ophthalmic Society group, and you don't really want to see 20 good mornings or happy birthday, sir, or whatever type of thing. You do this. If you want to greet someone on a special day or even every day because you love that person, do it on his or her individual cell phone. Then if somebody posts a good surgery or a case report, please avoid these thumbs ups or head claps or whatever. Send an individual message, that person will really appreciate it. And imagine if there are 256 people in the group and one person has posted a surgery and 255 people put a thumbs up. I mean, I have to wade through 255 thumbs up to see that surgery. So it's really disgusting for most people, and people leave the group because of this. So always scroll up to confirm that you're not repeating a news item. You're so thrilled to be the first one to report that Harbans Lal has become the president of the new vice president of the AIOS, that you will send Harbans has become the president, but you don't see that 5 posts before you somebody else has done it, and 3 posts before that person somebody else has done it. So don't repeat a news item. Confirm that somebody else has not done it first before hitting the send button. And of course, if you have sent something in error and then you've scrolled, you still have that golden hour in which you can delete for everyone. So there is a delete for everyone app with a button which has been introduced. So right click, find delete for me, delete for everyone, and click delete for everyone. You have 1 hour in which to rectify your error. Then beware of the university of WhatsApp. Avoid sending news to a professional group without verifying its authenticity. Some eye surgeons have been prematurely killed on WhatsApp also, which is unfortunate but true. Somebody has reported the death and then I've checked up by calling up that eye surgeon, and he is very much alive with a weak voice, but he says, Quresh, I'm fine. So it's very sad. I mean, I'm giving you extreme examples, but don't post news unless you're verified it yourself, just because you've heard it or seen it on some other group. And another important role that we can have is if you find unverified stories in non-medical groups like Baba Ramdev's Magic Drops or something like that, and it's in a Rotary or a Lions Club group, you are the one who's an expert. So please verify and tell those people that that's untrue. That's not. I found a beautiful picture, the movie on eye donation, which was completely factually incorrect. The father donates his eye to the blind daughter, and then the father goes blind, and so it was completely incorrect and painting such a wrong picture of eye donation. So in 4 or 5 different non-medical groups that I took pains to point out how eye donation is actually done and how that one should not be propagated. Please don't make it viral. And don't run down other pathies in non-medical groups. It's all right in our groups, but please remember that there are huge fans of all the Baba Ramdevs and types like that out there in the big bad world. And it tends to backfire on us. They think that you're pulling them down in order to enhance our practice. So be very gentle about things that we don't know in non-medical groups. Yes, you can say that we have no evidence that this works or whatever, but don't run down somebody, or don't run down a full pathi like a homeopathy or an Ayurveda or something, because it tends to backfire on us. Remember, we are the most expensive pathi in the market, and people always feel that we are out there only to make money. With this, I thank you so much for your attention, and we'll go back to a discussion. I'll just stop screen share, and this is what I wanted to have enough time. So we do have about 10 minutes in hand for discussion. So there are some things that we haven't really touched upon, and one of them which came up during my WhatsApp is FaceTime. Tushar, what about FaceTime, and can we use this, or is it only just on a one-to-one communication that FaceTime is used?
FaceTime is, as far as I know, more of a one-to-one communication tool, sir. I mean, there are other mediums for like Microsoft Teams, or like we use for large group communications. For patient consultations, WhatsApp video, a lot of people use it. What we have is a separate vendor who has enabled video consultations on our website. So because otherwise it becomes a little unprofessional to ask the patient to make a payment on something, and then
so if it's linked to your website, it becomes easier to
because there's a payment gateway. We have to also log on to the website to do the video consultation. Looks a little more professional, and
right.
Ideally, it has to be integrated into our EMRs now. So I think all new EMRs should have integrated teleconsultation with payment options, and everything should be into that EMR, because then it will become so much easier to integrate all the data and to have a printout. Not even have a printout. I mean, it goes straight through the EMR to the patient as well. I think all new EMRs will have that. That's a big area for improvement.
Gaurav, while we are on the subject of payment gateways and payment options, the one thing which patients hate is when you tell them that you need to pay 2% extra because you're paying using a credit card or something like that. So I would say that either don't accept credit cards if you can't bear that loss, or please bear that loss and don't tell patients that they have to pay extra, because it backfires tremendously. It's just not worth the money.
I completely agree, sir, and it's unprofessional. But look at airlines, look at railways, look at everything that you buy, including
Gaurav, what I do is that for my consultations, teleconsultations, and paid consultations, in-office consultations, I willingly and happily take credit card payments. But for my surgeries, I tell them that I'm sorry that I will not accept. So I don't tell them about 2%. Because the surgery amount is higher. So I tell them that, sorry, credit card is not acceptable. You can do an NEFT, you can do a check payment, you can do any other mode of payment. But there's no credit card.
I'll tell you a contrarian view. If you accept credit card payments, you'll find many more patients upgrading to much higher procedures. For example, if I'm doing a femto LASIK at 75, and so many patients, when they're choosing, if I suppose I offer Smile to them, they say that, paise nahi hai, to agar aap card se ho jayega payment, to hum log kar lenge and we'll upgrade. So you end up charging 50,000 more. You might save much more money. So if you allow, only thing that we do to discourage, these things is we tell them that if you're paying by card, there are no discounts. So if you're going to look for a discount, those are not possible with our credit card payments at all. So that's one thing. Second thing is that we also now accept, UPI payments, which are very easy with the QR code. They allow payments up to 1 lakh and there is no transaction fee on it. So we have put big QR code in the reception. So if patient, and almost everybody has Paytm, they have UPI, they have Google Pay, and they have everything else, Phone Pay. So up to 1 lakh is possible through that. And if there's anything beyond that, then they pay through credit card. So that minimizes the amount that they have to pay through card. You can try that. And so there are a lot of things that you can do today. A lot of new things are possible, sir.
Yeah, because patients love to pay by credit card because they get mileage, they get points which they can use as well. Yeah. Arun, what do you do in your setup? You're on mute, Arun.
In our setup, we take credit cards, we take cash also. Sometimes we take checks if we know the person. Of course, online, there's a gateway that we use, and which is this HealthFlex one. But overall, majority of our patients pay by cash.
No, but what about credit card? Do you charge a fee or?
No, we don't charge any fee. I was not even aware that you have to pay a fee. I'm just getting to know from you. I'll check it out now.
No, as Gaurav says correctly, airlines and even government the portals are taking. AIOS is charging a
so even telephone bills to the government, to BSNL and MTNL, everything, insurance. If you're paying insurance premium through credit card, they will take a transaction fee. You buy anything today.
Yes. Even on my family benefit scheme, because the vendor takes the fee, I can't help it. Yeah.
So only doctors are the ones who have to bear the fee themselves. I'm sorry.
It's interesting. I made a booking through Make My Trip for the ASCRS, which I've just cancelled, and they've taken their full convenience fee. They haven't refunded that.
It's convenient. No, it's for their convenience.
Yeah, it's not fair actually, but that's how the life is. I think doctors are the favorite. Doctors in hospitals are the favorite whipping boys for the society today. So we have to bear with it. But very interesting course, sir. And thank you for being the policeman in most of our WhatsApp groups, and with the humor part of it. It comes out really nice. And so, WhatsApp video calls are good, but I realize that some people are using them for teleconsults. What happens is that even if you're doing a video conferencing, I mean, usually it'll be our staff member who will fix up the video WhatsApp chat. I will not make a direct thing and my patient will not have my number directly. But even when you do a WhatsApp video conferencing, the number actually shows up in the video chat thing, and your number will be disclosed. So patient can reach out to you directly eventually if he wants. That's one thing I wanted to caution you. And
somehow I find that our number is very difficult to keep secret, because every patient gets it, and then of course, doctor, we will not disturb you unless there is an emergency, and the emergency is at 1 a.m., 1 drop or 2 drops to be put in the eye.
So, one thing I tell you, you're doing this teleconsultation. It's not a very popular thing in the West, and there's a lot of legal implications.
AIOS went through that.
Huh?
We got a clearance from the government to do
No.
teleconsultation.
That was during the COVID. That's a different thing.
Yeah.
But when you do it commercially for a non-COVID kind of a situation in a regular form, supposing you miss a uveitis and diagnose it as a conjunctivitis, which you're likely to do because there's no strict lab adaptation there, and the patient takes it very strongly, or normally what happens is that the next ophthalmologist tells him that you missed the diagnosis. So most of the time they get to know the next doctor. And that can put you in a bit of a soup if the guy has litigations. They can take it to the cleaners and you can have a tough time.
True. So just now during the pandemic, we are doing limited and I think there is some amount of immunity which the government has given us from being sued for our teleconsultations.
Also, there's something I wanted to talk that AIOC should take it up. And Gaurav, this is something people should talk that we do not have any across the board rationalization of charges. The patients come and ask you that X is charging.
Arun, we'll tackle that in the AGM.
That will never happen. No, I said that will never happen. The rationalization of charges.
But there should be some bandwidth, which you should charge.
So that's like the airlines. You cannot have a bandwidth
because I feel that my skill is worth 5 lakhs and you feel your skill is worth 5 rupees. So there is a huge difference in everyone's self-worth. It's not the equipment, the instruments alone, but it's my feeling of self-worth.
No, but we all agree to standard charges when it comes to CGHS. Then we don't say we have a skill set.
We don't do CGHS. Many of us refuse
CGHS. Insurance, we take a skill set.
We don't do insurance. We don't do cashless for that reason. So that's what I'm saying.
That's
opening a Pandora's box. That's opening
so,
a Pandora's
I wanted
box.
to ask about Facebook Live and Insta Live. They have become really popular now, and people and these YouTube influencers who are putting out like videos about their live experience of a particular surgery, and and this is being encouraged by the hospitals as well, that they walk in and they record everything, and then in the end they put out. It works like advertising.
They charge a huge amount, I believe, these influencers.
Right. So this is another aspect of social media which many people are using quite effectively in Delhi and Bombay. I've seen some of the hospitals do that really well. So I wanted to ask you like your views on that.
I think it's stretching the bounds of the ethics over here, because you're paying someone to advertise yourself. It's not a grateful patient who's putting it on Twitter or something like that.
You're offering them a free surgery.
It's like a film star coming in for surgery, and every move of his is filmed and projected on social media. And then he puts out, how happy he was. Now, I'll give you Himanshu Mehta's example with Amitabh Bachchan. I mean, there was no, Amitabh was a genuine patient since decades. And when Amitabh came, I mean, Himanshu was tense about it because there was a huge amount of the media following, and Amitabh himself was blogging things over there, and there was no control on him. So Amitabh once blogged that I can't see too well, and then of course a few days later he says I can see everything is clear. Himanshu says there was nothing I could do about it. So even the non-paid people, but who are very socially influential, are something that we have to be really, really careful about how we handle.
No, but talking of Amitabh is very interesting. Today we had Amitabh's daughter in our hospital. She's staying in a farmhouse nearby, and the families are patients for a long time. So when she came to the hospital, just jokingly somebody asked her for an autograph or a photograph, and she said, "No, in COVID we do not allow you to come close to us." And she brushed off the person.
Good use of COVID.
Tushar,
yes.
Sorry. No, I wanted to ask him about Twitter. Like, Twitter handle, you would have your personal handle. Do you have a hospital handle as well? I mean, and how do you use it for the hospital, this thing? I mean, are you able to use it a little bit for for the hospital benefit?
Yeah, we do have a hospital handle, and we do post on that as well. But I wouldn't say that we are doing too great on that, because like I said, Twitter needs you to have engaging content for you to actually be noticed. So you need to devote separate time, somebody who's specifically focusing on Twitter, and you need to be involved with the current issues. Say there's a meme going on, or there's a popular hashtag, you need to find something relevant to you to that and post that for you to actually be able to do well on Twitter. So that's why I think there are not many ophthalmologists who are actually doing very well, at least not many Indian ophthalmologists that are actually putting in too much on Twitter. But there is a lot of potential, but we need to be a lot more innovative and spend time on it.
which would be the one portal on social media which you think would be most useful for ophthalmologists practice as an ophthalmologist personally?
I think, of course, Facebook we know is, apart from that, Insta, because Instagram does have a huge following, and especially if you're, say, a LASIK surgeon, or if you're a refractive surgeon, or into aesthetics. A lot of dermatologists, or even our oculofacial aesthetics, because you find a lot of following for that. Younger people, younger crowd, they're very willing to follow that, and those people have huge followings on Instagram.
Perfect. Sorry,
Another thing I would like to bring out is that Kuresh, we've been discussing only marketing. But in medicine, one of the best forms of marketing, social media.
Yeah.
But in medicine, one of the best ways of marketing is to make yourself very, very exclusive. And two people I'd like to refer to this is, one is Dr. Balaji of Bombay. I've handled quite a few VIPs of Bombay, and the best part is that they've all had the surgery by him. This man, I believe, doesn't advertise at all. And the other one is, you see the case of, there's a very famous cardiac surgeon, I'll tell you, who does so well, but he never advertises. And he gets patients by word of mouth. And that kind of practice actually holds on much more. Because
Arun, everyone cannot be Barjor Banaji or that cardiac surgeon.
It's a form of marketing.
For the rest
it's a form
of us.
Marketing. You see, when you make yourself exclusive, you get that kind of clientele because they do not want any publicity.
Yeah. But there are factors which work in their favor. Everyone doesn't have it. So for the average ophthalmologist, the social media is suddenly something which has fallen into our laps, which if we use wisely.
Sorry to interrupt, sir. The session time is.
Yeah. So I'm just summing up. So if we use this wisely, we can use it to our benefit. Thank you all. Thank you the faculty for your attention, and thank you audience.
Thank you,
Raj.
Thank you.
Over to you.
Really enjoyed.
Thank you.
I thank everyone for this wonderful